I didn't ask Judith how she felt about abortion. When O'Connor was selected, the committee doesn't say to her, if you get an abortion case, how are you going to vote? You mustn't do that, because it doesn't work that way. The way it works is you have general rules in mind, but you apply them to a specific set of facts. And only in that context do you arrive at a conclusion. When you start announcing in advance, you're doing it all wrong. The legislature is different. The legislature makes generic rules for a whole broad category. So you elect a person, he says, I'm going to vote for the ERA. The ERA is terrific. That's the way it's supposed to work. But you don't vote for a judge that way. You do just the opposite. You ask the judge her competence, her experience, her intelligence, her commitment, her sobriety, her reputation if it's a collegial court, her reputation for being able to give and take, which is very important. There are some judges who are brilliant by themselves, who you put them in a collegial context, they can't work because they're introverted or egocentric, and there have been some great Court of Appeals that had judges like that, Supreme Courts as well. So what you do is you get a general sense of where they're coming from. Now there's this raging debate about philosophy. Should you appoint conservatives to the Court of Appeals or liberals to the Court of Appeals? You shouldn't appoint either. And it doesn't work out that way anyway. You appoint Hugo Black, who some people say was in the KKK, right? And he surprises you in his first 2 years. So did Byron White, so did a whole slew of them. So, no, it's not a shell game. No, it's not unimportant. Yes, it is basic and fundamental and inescapably so.
Last year, as part of your program to deal with overcrowding in the jails, you had a program where people convicted of drug offenses could get out early and they were kept in a halfway house. That was a one-year program. It's expiring now. Are you going to make any effort to renew it or let it go?
I did this morning.
You did? What did you do?
I said to the leaders, we ought to renew it.
What did they say?
Stanley said yes. Warren says we'll
Take
take
it out
a
with the
look at
conference?
it.
So
That's the community contract release. It worked well. As far as I'm told, it worked well. Oh, yes, the problem is every community that thinks it might be asked to take one of these doesn't want it. It's like the homeless, like, you know, it's a popular common syndrome. Yeah, it's a good program, but we don't want it in our neighborhood.
Are there agreements on any issues at this point?
We go to the leaders' meeting with a list that says agreed to, and that list had 9 items staff agreed to, not the leaders. You people agree? Yeah, that looks good. That one I didn't know about, let me check with the staff, I didn't know they had agreed. So 9 very solid pieces, all of them good, not ready to announce them. Then continuing to move forward, in effect, which is, look, we're making progress, how can we speed it up? Warren, will you take a look at this? I think if you look and talk to so-and-so, and Stanley, will you let me know how you feel about this? That's moving too. Drop any out. One maybe where there was a difference of opinion, oh, we should raise the amount by this much or that much. I said, look, let's hold that till next year. No, HFA I think is all right. I don't remember. No pension supplementation. Warren, I think we ought to do it. I think we ought to do it. I have to talk to the leaders here, I have to get back to the leaders after talking to the staff about how much and how, et cetera, but they haven't taken that off. So, Allison, the way it works is calling the attention of the leaders to places where you think that they could speed up the process, or the leaders have questions. You sent me that energy bill on entitlements. What did this section of it mean? What did that section of it mean? I would say generally, well, the atmosphere is always good, frankly. I mean, the attitude is always good. They want to get things done, despite what's said and perceived or misperceived. They're eager to get things done. They'll stay around. They work well together. There's no acrimony. And there is more understanding after the meeting than in the meeting, because we raise questions, we go back and forth. We discussed energy again. I discussed the importance of the phase-in bills. I discussed how even if the plants don't come online, it's important to say to Long Island and to the people around Shoreham that there will be a threshold, that there'll be a ceiling on rates, and that if you don't do that, over the summer there'll be a great deal of damage, because people will be panicked and they won't understand why we did nothing, especially since the legislature did a phase-in last year, which I vetoed, as you recall. A veto, which was a good veto at the time.
Did Ann finish Agree to do a phase-in?
No, it's not like that. The way it works is, I'll take a look at it, yes, we'll continue to work. You see, if it is not realistic to make, to think you're making progress, what they'll say is, that's out. They don't play games. They don't say, well, we'll see. If it's not going to go, they'll say, Governor, you're not going to get that. And then you take it off the list. That didn't happen today.
On Long Island low bid, any progress?
A Long Island low bid, let me reconstruct it, it's the bottom of the page. What I did, no, that's where it fell. I did not evoke from them any response. What I said to the leaders on Long Island low bid was that unless we took action by next week, there would be no work let, and you'd be months behind, and that would be bad for Long Island. The problem, for those of you who are not aware of it, on Long Island, we have the Rebuild New York bond issue ready to move, but many contractors have caught themselves in situations that have produced indictments, and we don't want to let bids for people who are indicted, because they may be convicted. And so we need a way. See, and they win all the bids, these people who are indicted. So we have to somehow get beneath them. So, pardon me? Huh? Nothing. Wait till the, I said they may get convicted. That's right. And as a matter of fact, that's a good point you raise. I'm not quick to disqualify people for indictment. And check this law very carefully. As a matter of fact, I said to Jerry Crotty, I'm surprised that you believe that you have that legal capacity, because this is only an accusation. But there are a series of cases in New York State that say specifically that where the requirement is qualified bidder, lowest responsible qualified bidder, you can, not that you must, but you can consider indictment. Now, I must tell you, my instinct was kind of the other way. But that's the law. We have a very big practical problem there, because there are so many indictments outstanding. So that's what we said, and I asked them to take a look at it and to please understand the urgency of it. I said the same about the teenage pregnancy program.
Governor, the Assembly either today or tomorrow is expected to pass a bill that would extend the early retirement
Why
options.
don't you ask us about the seatbelts and the short people? And the seatbelts?
What about the seatbelts? Wait a minute, let me ask this first. That would extend it to SUNY, CUNY, others, as well as making it an optional thing for local governments. Was that discussed in the conference for
Extend what?
early retirement?
No, it didn't come up. Where is early retirement? Wasn't on the list today. It's not off the table. Well, let me tell you about seatbelts. No, I'll tell you why. This is terrific. We were doing a television show last night, and a woman called up and said, I'm 5'4", and these things are no good for people 5'4". And I'll tell you the truth, I had never thought, I haven't seen the bill yet. And that's why I'm glad I said, well, you have to read the bill, you never know. And she says, fire goes by my throat. So I said, well, I didn't know that, and I'll look at it. And I said, if it hadn't been for this show, I wouldn't have known that. I was wrong. You know what happened at the leaders' meeting today? Before the leaders' meeting, I was with Mike Del Giudice and Jerry Crotty. This is not about Mike Del Giudice. I was with Mike Del Giudice and Jerry Crotty, and Philomena came in to give us coffee. And Philomena looked a little dour. Dour is the Scotch. Dour. And I said, what's the matter, Philomena? She says, I don't like that bill you're going to sign. I said, what bill is that? She says, with the things there that get you in the throat. She says, I'm 4'11". She says, and I can't use those things. Now, she didn't see the show. So I was wrong last night when I gave you all the credit for this on the show. So apparently it is an issue. No, she raised it, and apparently it is a problem for people. I'm sorry?
Deal the bill for us short people then?
Well, no, Adam, it has to be looked at. How do you deal with that? I mean, if indeed, now this woman, Philomena, explained that in order to get the harness, she has to move the seat way up. And if she moves, in Pallor, I think, and if she moves the seat way up, she doesn't feel as secure behind the wheel. It affects her vision. It does all kinds of things. So it's not just, a kind of funny situation. It is a real situation. I assume it can be dealt with. We'll find out. There must be some alternative device. I don't really know enough about the harness and how it works. But it is something to take a look at.
Maybe, in other words,
Pardon me?
You use seatbelts, don't you? I mean, you're not,
I know, are you kidding? I wouldn't let the car start without a seatbelt. What's that?
you said you're unfamiliar with the harness, so.
I didn't say I put it on. Yeah, no, we have a different, don't we have, what seat? We have this one, right? That's right. Oh, okay. Well, let me tell you this, if we pass the law, I'll put it on.
you may be asking for amendments to the bill?
I may be asking for a plea, yeah. Yes. No, I don't know. I don't know if we'll ask for amendments. I haven't seen the bill. I have them looking at it. They're looking at it now to see technically what can be done, what should be. Oh, Mark, please. You're back.
Governor Del Bella said in a statement that he was going to urge you to put airbags in new state cars. Has he talked to you about that at all?
In just his or everybody's? Well, no, it's I really don't know a lot about it. Airbags, believe it or not. I think it's, would it be what?
It's related to the seatbelt.
It is related to the seatbelt, I think. Yes, I would say so.
Would you think it was a good idea for the state cars?
I thought the seatbelt was a good idea. I want to know how that airbag affects very tall people.
Governor, I've been curious for months. Why is it necessary at public expense for you to always have your picture taken constantly at these press conferences? I mean, what results from all these pictures being taken of you?
Security device to see which members of the LCA have their hands in my pockets.
Is that the reason, though? I mean,
I
why
don't
is it done?
I don't know. I'll look into it, Fred.
Last week you told us in the hallway that you wanted an agreement on your consolidation of Offtrack vetting legislation before you submitted it. You did
Yeah.
submit it. Did you get an agreement on it?
No,
or-
no. What we did was we submitted, Bill Emick suggested after talking to the staffs for some time that it would be a good idea to submit a bill. He didn't really expect that the bill would go in its, the form as proposed to them, but that bits and pieces of it certainly would be used. And I think that's what's happening, Jerry. There are portions of it that appear to have unanimous approval, but the consolidation provision is not moving at this time. I think it's a little bit too heavy for this part of the session. It raises all kinds of political problems with local units. I think my general sense of it is that there is a good feeling about the idea, but it's a difficult one to achieve politically, and it needs time and work. So the fact that it doesn't get adopted this session, I don't think will mean that it's not going to be adopted ever.
What portions do you think have unanimous?
I don't know exactly. Exacta, the super colossal Exacta looks good. Huh? What is the name of that? Where you win? Super exotic? Super exotic.
We got copies of the bills that were agreed to in your meeting this morning? Or
No. No. No, and the reason is simple. I don't play a game with you. They have to go through a process. They may change their mind. Some staff member may say, here's something else, and then you don't do it that way. You go in, they vote on it. When it gets to my desk, I sign it, it becomes law. I'd rather not. I'd rather not. Yeah, I know.
What happened was we changed the policy.
What policy?
I mean,
Oh, you mean that I gave you, that
Last
became
week,
a
yeah.
policy?
something happened
All
this
right.
week that precluded
Policy's
giving us the
over.
list.
No more policy. New policy, no change. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Governor.